Anything can happen when you...
Who the hell is? Are they really alone?
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a warning. To protect theater owners and the makers of this horror vision film, viewers with nerve or heart conditions are advised to cover their eyes and ears whenever this object appears on the screen or whenever this sound is heard. Thank you.
Do you believe in evil and evil powers, thoughts?
I think you've been working here too long.
I can just imagine all those hot numbers hanging around the pool. Yeah. It's gonna be a real bachelor's paradise.
You mean you just made a move with your brain? I'd heard about it, but I only thought that those gurus or whatever on high mountains could do stuff like that.
Now I shall have your heart forever.
Hi, this is Adrienne King, Alice from Friday the 13th, and the Hysteria continues.
And welcome back to The Hysteria Continues, episode 61. And this time we're taking you into a house of terror, well, maybe not terror, but a house of something or other, with one of Nathan's patented picks. And we're going to be covering the freak-out masterpiece that is Boardinghouse from 1982. But before we get on to that, we're also going to be doing top 3 killers as well. It's something we surprisingly haven't done in the past. So we're going to be discussing our top 3 killers. But before we get on to that, let's introduce my fellow housegeists. Nathan, as it was your pick, how are you doing? How are you feeling today?
Oh, I feel fantastic.
Okay. Is that because we're going to be talking about Boardinghouse?
Yes, where the rent won't kill you, but something else will.
Yes, the videotape. Joseph, how are you doing?
I'm doing quite well. How are you?
I'm very well. Not too hungover, actually.
I'm a little sleepy. I woke up like 2 minutes before the show, but I'm okay.
You're a professional, though, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, the problem is that...
You better be glad you get to sleep that long.
Well, I didn't go to bed till late, but the problem is that for some reason the alarm was set and we never use an alarm, but it went off this morning. I was like, why did the alarm go off at 7 o'clock? So I hit the button to go back to sleep, and I didn't just stay awake.
Well, thank you for that.
Consummate professional for Boardinghouse.
Yes. Well, I think maybe it was your body telling you something, wasn't it?
Yes.
Your internal alarm clock saying, "Don't get up, don't get up."
For God's sakes, don't get up.
Eric, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. A lovely sunny day here.
Yes, it's lovely and sunny.
To be sitting inside with all the windows jammed shut.
I know. It's the same for me because I got somebody recreating the Texas Chainsaw Massacre outside, and some kind of power tool frenzy. So there's hammering and drills and everything. So hopefully we won't hear too much of that. But yes, we are going to be doing covering Boardinghouse a little bit later. We've got our kind of summer holiday and holiday shenanigans coming up, so we will have news at the end of the show what we're planning over the next couple of weeks, but we will have a show in some format for you, but we'll tell you about that a little bit later. But before we get on to all of that, let's see what we've been watching recently. Nathan, would you like to go first?
Yes. I watched a new horror comedy called Fresh Meat. I would not recommend it to Erik because, if memory serves, Erik is not a fan of horror comedies. Is that right?
Some of them I think are okay. I love Evil Dead 2, but I hated what's that one you all love? Psycho Beach Party. I didn't like.
Didn't you? Erik,
I remember you saying
how
that.
could you?
Yeah. Yes.
Fresh Meat. It's kind of like the film Blood Massacre, except it's a comedy version of it. It's basically this group of criminals end up taking this family hostage in their home. But what they don't know is that these families are like crazy cannibal serial killers. So it's kind of like a free-for-all. It's like the family versus the criminals, like killing each other off. So, I mean, I had a lot of fun with it. I thought it was, it's not great, but, it's a fun little time waster.
Is it quite a new film?
Yeah, I believe so. I think it came out maybe last year.
Okay.
Yeah, it's from New Zealand.
Right. Okay. I've not heard of it before, but have you seen it? You haven't seen it, Erik?
No, I haven't. I was just looking it up on IMDb here,
okay.
And I just see it's from New Zealand, and the family they take hostage are Maori. So,
right. Well, it could be interesting.
Very, very, very New Zealand. Yes, they're not even trying to mask its New Zealandness.
No, fair enough. What about you, Joseph? You seen that?
No, I do have a copy because I was going to watch it, but no, I haven't got around to it yet.
Okay. Anything else, Nathan?
Yeah, I got two more. Also, finally watched Grabbers. Which I loved. I thought it was like a really, really fun movie. And I think some of you guys have seen it.
Yes, I've seen it.
Yes, Grabbers, excellent film.
I think we've all seen it.
I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I was a big fan. I mean, I thought the idea of having to stay drunk to avoid the creature was inventive.
It was very clever, wasn't it? And it was a story.
You'd be safe.
I would. I've never been attacked by a monster, and there's a very good reason for that, I imagine.
I'd be dead. I'd be dead within a minute. I don't drink.
Me too.
I drink like once a year, so I'd be toast.
God, can you imagine that, Erik?
No, I can't even go once a day.
Well, before I turned 21 is when I did all my drinking, when it was illegal. And then once I was 21, it wasn't as fun anymore, so I just can't deal with the hangovers anymore.
Yeah, the hangovers aren't
No.
good, but I don't drink that much anymore to get really bad hangovers.
That was my problem. I didn't know anything about moderation, so I just drank until I passed out.
Okay, all right. Well, that was Grabbers for you, and you had one more for us, Nathan.
Yes, I went and saw The Purge, and I thought it was excellent. I thought it was a great film. It's a serious movie, but it also kind of has an underlying, like, darkly humorous. I mean, it's not a comedy in any way to me, but I kind of saw some dark satire within the idea of Purge Night, and especially at the end. I thought it was a great film, and I'm sure you guys have all heard of it. I mean, I've seen advertisements on TV quite often for it, actually. But, the general idea is it's set in the future, and on one night a year, people are allowed to commit crimes with no repercussions. And this family are locked up for the night with this high-tech security system, but they let a guy in who's being chased by a gang, and the gang basically shows up at the family's house and is like, "Give him to us, we're going to kill you all," which kind of sounds like Assault on Precinct 13, but I mean, really, that's as far as the similarities between those two movies go. But it's really, really entertaining and a tense film. Like, it's got a lot of tense sequences in it, and I thought it was, one of the better, newer movies I've seen.
Okay, and Joseph, you've seen it as well, haven't you?
Oh, yes, I saw it on opening night, and I loved it as well. It's getting a lot of kind of mixed to bad reviews, and I don't really understand why, although I guess I do kind of understand, because, for one, I'm not going to spoil it, but the ending is really offbeat, and I think it would, make a lot of people mad because they expect, the typical just humongous climactic showdown, but it takes a totally different turn. And I kind of appreciated that. And, like Nathan said, it has a lot of, dark humor and satire, which I think, helps the film a lot, and some pretty good performances. Particularly the head bad guy who is in lead of the Purge, looking for the guy that gets into the house. He's really kind of frightening. And Ethan Hawke, not a huge fan of Ethan Hawke, but he does a pretty good job here as the hero. And really stellar film, I think. When I went to see it, the theater was pretty much sold out, and people were just kind of clapping and laughing and screaming at the appropriate times, and no cell phones were turned on. It was a really great cinema experience, and finally, I expected the movie to kind of fall by the wayside because I didn't really see many advertisements, but apparently it just like killed the box office this weekend. So you can probably expect a sequel.
Oh, did it? It did well? Did it?
Oh yeah, the opening day was like nearly 20 million, and they're predicting near 40 million for this total weekend.
Okay.
And the budget was $3 million.
Yeah,
Wow.
so there will be a sequel, no doubt. Yeah,
it's
quite good.
Yeah,
really good
great. Well,
home-invasion film.
it's worth pointing out that we're recording this a week in advance, so just so you know, just put that into context. And Erik, has it been released in Dublin yet?
It has been. We actually got it a week before the US. It opened last Friday week over here, but I haven't seen it yet.
No, I have not.
But
seen it
I
yet.
don't think it did as well. I think I was listening to the Mark Kermode film review podcast this morning, and I think it opened at number 6.
Right.
If I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Okay.
But it got a good review though.
Right. Okay. Well, look forward to seeing it. I probably won't see it at the cinema.
Yeah, it's probably one I'll catch on DVD as well, I'd say.
Yes, I think I'm being made to go and see the Liberace movie instead.
That looks quite fun, though.
It does.
Look,
What?
I kind of want to see that. No,
But have you seen it, Nathan?
No, but I just can't imagine. I'd rather go see the
I
Purge.
think you would want to see it.
Well,
but it looks like it could be kind of fun.
Yeah,
no?
it does. I mean, it looks like it could be quite horrific in a completely different type of way. But well, thank you for that, Nathan. Was that all the 3 you've seen? Was there something else?
No, that's it.
That's it. Okay, well, thank you. Erik, what have you been watching?
Okay, I watched a film called The Ordeal, which is a Belgian-French, I think, co-production from 2004. It's kind of like an art house version of Misery, I suppose. It's about a psychotic farmer who holds this singer hostage. The singer's car breaks down in the middle of the countryside. What do I say about the film? I mean, it's very well made, but I wasn't in the mood for that type of film when I watched it, but I just wasn't entertained by it at all, I have to say. I'm not too enthused in the first place about kind of hostage type movies. I mean, I thought it was going to be a far more thrilling movie than it turned out to be. As I said, it's kind of art housey. They have these very far-fetched elements to the plot, like the farmer and all the townsfolk as well seem to think that this guy is the reincarnation, or he is this farmer's ex-wife Gloria who ran out on him. So all the there's a scene actually that's horrific and yet funny at the same time, where all the locals sort of bum him against his will. But there's also a scene where they're bumming a calf. I've got to stop saying bumming a lot. It does at times veer into Texas Chainsaw Massacre territory, so maybe you guys might appreciate it a bit more than I do. But because there is a scene where the captive and his captors are all sitting around a table, and there's just nothing but non-stop screaming for what felt like about 10 minutes. It's probably a lot shorter than that. But I think because I watched it straight after another film that I'm about to talk about, which was much more of a straightforward horror. So maybe I just wasn't the right atmosphere to be watching it in. But yeah, The Ordeal didn't do a lot for me, I have to say.
Okay, I have seen that. Was it Calvaire, The Ordeal? Is it?
Yes, I've seen that.
Yes, Calvaire is the original title. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember much about it, but I saw that quite a few years ago.
So Erik, you are saying it's an ordeal?
I am. Well, I wouldn't say it was an ordeal to watch. I just found myself a bit bored by it, to be honest.
Man, these jokes just write themselves.
Making that guy wear a dress.
Yes, they do make him wear a dress because they think he is Gloria. Yes, for some reason.
Well,
anyway, the film I watched previous to that, and I think Joseph and Nathan saw this one as well, was VHS 2.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, which I thought was a pretty decent sequel. It's slimmed down to 4 stories this time, along with the wraparound. 2 of which were really, really good, I thought, and 2 of which were decent. There's one standout sequence for me was this Japanese cult episode, which just felt like a juggernaut. It just kept getting more and more absurd and outlandish and more gruesome and horrific. I mean, it made absolutely no sense, but what it felt like was a depiction of hell transposed onto, well, not celluloid, onto VHS, as it were. I think it's very effective. The final episode is one about an alien invasion, which I thought was, at the start, looked like it was going to be the best one, but it doesn't really go anywhere, and it's marred by a bit too much shaky cam and too many superimposed VHS damage effects onto the screen, which were really bugging me at the time. So I didn't really have any surprises. But overall, I'd say all 4 films are of a pretty good quality. I mean, I'm probably the one who liked the first VHS movie the most out of the 4 of us. I thought there were at least 3 segments in it that I thought were pretty good. But this one is much more consistent. And yeah, I really liked it. The first episode as well, the one about the guy with the bionic eye that sort of videos everything he does. That is, again, like the alien invasion one, starts out really well, but it doesn't feel like they had any clue how to end the segment. But I'd say a big thumbs up for VHS 2.
Okay. I haven't seen it yet. It hasn't been released here.
Has it been released in Bristol yet? No,
not yet. But Joseph and Nathan, because didn't it play? Well, it's
video on demand.
Yeah, video on demand.
Yeah.
And as far as VHS 2, I really loved it a lot more than the first one. It does have its problems. For one, the wraparound story is a little more focused here, but it's still not, doesn't really give you any concrete evidence of what's really going on and why these people have these tapes. But it's a little more focused this time. The first story with the bionic eye, like Erik said, it starts out well, but it kind of meanders, and it's directed by Adam Wingard, and he also stars in it. And he did A Horrible Way to Die, which was terrible, and he's doing the upcoming You're Next, which I really want to see. But him as the lead guy, I felt was really off. He was pretty bad. I thought his narration was just like he was reading a script, and it kind of took me out of it. But it was still a decent story. The second story with the bike ride through the woods, I really loved that. It was short and to the point. I mean, it was pretty much over in a flash, but it was just kind of, hyper violent and just a lot of fun. And I love the ending with I won't spoil it, but the ending where the action takes place it's kind of mean spirited, but it's funny at the same time. I really enjoyed that. The third story that
was directed by Eduardo Sanchez, I forgot to point out.
Yeah, the second one. Yeah.
Or co-directed by, yeah.
The second one was, the third one was directed by Gareth Evans, who did The Raid, The Redemption, or I think that was what it's called. But it's the longest of the stories, and I think it was Indonesian. It wasn't Japanese. Was that right?
Oh, sorry, yeah.
I think it might have been Indonesian. I could be wrong, but it is the best of the stories. And like Erik said, it just completely just goes balls to the wall. I mean, it does not stop, and it's just so just out there and outlandish and just so gory and violent and crazy. I mean, some of the stuff that happens in this story is just, you're like, I can't believe this is happening. It is the best of the 4.
Although it's marred somewhat slightly by a very graphic snot scene.
Yeah, it's worse than the Blair Witch.
Worse than the Blair Witch. Scene. I thought I was going to barf.
But I do love that final shot of that thing. That thing is creepy. Yeah. The fourth story, like Erik said, it's a little too much shaky cam. It has a couple of good scenes. One scene I really liked in the fourth story is at the very beginning. All the kids that we're pretty much focused on, they're at the lake and they're swimming and having a good time. And one kid's got a camera on his head and he's like playing with a water pistol and he's like shooting everybody. And he goes underwater. And the second he goes underwater, you get like a quick glimpse of I guess the threat that's going to show up later, and it really freaked me out. I mean, I didn't see it coming, and it almost made me jump. And I love that scene. There is the ending to the story is getting a lot of kind of bad press because it's, well, I won't spoil what happens, but it's something to do with an animal. But it didn't really bother me as much because it wasn't like human cruelty related. It was just kind of like bad luck. So it wasn't as graphic as I thought it was going to be. So it didn't really bother me. But anyway, overall, yeah, VHS 2, I really liked it a lot.
Okay, Nathan, what are your thoughts?
I thought it was much, much better than part 1. I wasn't the biggest fan of part 1. I thought it was just okay. But I did really love part 2, and I agree that I think the second and third stories are the best, with the third story being, like the best of the whole thing. The cult sequence. I mean, it's a great short story. Like, I could actually watch that feature length if it was a feature length movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it would have been good that way. And I am one of the people that does not like the way the fourth story ends, the final shot. I mean, to me, the main reason I dislike it is I think it could have not even shown it, and it wouldn't have changed the story at all.
Yeah, it's not really necessary.
Made me feel sad.
It's not really necessary, but at the same time, it wasn't as terrible as I thought it was going to be.
I mean, it's not like, somebody like killing animals or anything, but it's just, if it's not necessary, then just don't bother with it, I mean, I'm just not a big fan of animals dying in movies, period. I'm just saying.
There's something else unnecessary in VHS 2, is that you get to see a man's big long winkle at the very start.
Oh, I forgot about that, yeah.
Was it just gratuitous, was it?
Oh, it's gratuitous and degrading to men.
Okay.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
I shall make sure to look out for that so I can tut at the right place.
Yes.
Okay, well, I shall look forward to VHS 2. I'm sure I shall be seeing it soon. Mm-hmm. I've kind of lost track of where we are. Who's that?
That's all from me for recently seeing, because it's only been a week. But apparently, Joseph has just been sitting in a cinema or in front of his Blu-ray all week.
Yes.
Yeah, I have. I saw The Purge in VHS 2, but I also saw a movie called Amber Lake, which is basically about these 3 girls who get invited to this summer vacation home by a guy who turns out to be their long lost father, and they don't even know that they're related, and all of their names are Amber for some strange reason. But basically, the father has invited them up there to kind of work through their psychological issues because he's a psychiatrist, and I guess he's kind of kept tabs on them, and he knows that they kind of suffer from different ailments of the mind. But they get up there and they kind of, get to know one another. And through the whole movie, they have the same name, so you're thinking, okay, are they going to pull this this twist out that's pretty much like every other movie? But they don't do that, surprisingly. And I kind of liked it. It's a little flat in the acting territory, and it's kind of slow. But I think the ending of this film saves it, which I won't spoil, but it goes in a direction I didn't see, and it's a pretty neat little twist to kind of cap off the movie. It's kind of humorous in a way, kind of darkly humorous, but I wouldn't say go see it, but if you happen to see it and you have nothing else to do, it's worth one watch.
Okay, not heard of that one.
No,
but basically, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that they get up there and, he starts kind of, trying to figure out why they're so, messed up in the head, but he ends up dying and his body is found in the lake. So the premise of the movie is you got to figure out which Amber killed him, because the movie's called Amber Lake. But like I said, it takes a kind of a neat twist at the end.
Okay, right. Okay, well, that sounds good. Anything else?
Yeah, 3 more. Last night I watched Warm Bodies, which is the kind of zombie horror comedy about, basically, for some strange reason, it's never really said, but zombies are pretty much just kind of roaming the earth. There's like 2 types of zombies. One is like the one that had just been turned not too long ago, and so they still have some human characteristics to them. But then there's these other like skeletal ones that they do nothing but want to eat people. And basically it follows this one guy who's kind of conflicted about being a zombie, and he meets this girl, and he kind of falls in love with her, and she eventually falls in love with him. And all the adverts and reviews I've read pretty much painted it as this kind of I guess you'd say a hipster, oh, look how clever we are comedy. But I was really surprised by this movie. I thought it was really kind of, it was really funny in a lot of places, but it's also it's almost kind of touching and kind of uplifting in a weird kind of way. And I kind of enjoyed that about it. It's kind of unusual. And like I said, it does kind of make fun of the zombie, genre a lot. And as sick as I am of zombie films, I actually thought this was quite good and quite a unique spin on the whole zombie film. It kind of reminded me of it has that kind of Return of the Living Dead 3 angle with zombies in love, but it kind of takes it up a notch in a kind of an interesting way here.
Okay, I saw the trailer. I haven't seen it yet. Anyone else?
It's a surprise. Yeah, it's a surprise. I was surprised at it.
No, I haven't seen it, but it did get quite good reviews actually when it opened here in the cinema. Directed by the same guy who did All the Boys Love Mandy Lane, which I quite liked. Yeah.
Okay. What about you, Nathan? Have you seen it?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
Okay, well, it's one to look out for. So thank you, Joseph. And what's your other two? I know you saw the Chainsaw in the end, didn't you?
Yeah, I saw Texas Chainsaw 3D, and I was pretty much prepared for the worst. But the first hour of this movie, I was like, why are people kind of downing on this? This is great. First hour is just typical slasher film, just kind of turned up a notch. There's lots of chase scenes and lots of really gory death scenes. I was like, this is pretty good. But man, does this movie shoot itself in the foot at the last 30 minutes? I mean, sometimes you can kind of overlook a film's ending if the following the previous hour was good. But even here, the ending is so bad and it gets so nonsensical that it actually ruins what you'd seen previously. It turns from a slasher movie into this kind of Hatfield versus the McCoy territory, and it does not work. For one, it doesn't really make sense when you consider that the main character, the main girl, she basically kind of sympathizes with Leatherface, and she has no real reason to. I mean, I won't go into specific spoilers, but once you see it, you'll understand why, because she's not crazy through the whole film, so there's no foreshadowing or anything that she might have a screw loose. And I was willing to overlook all the stupid, corny dialogue and bad acting, but the story turn it takes at the end is just so bad. And the timeline is all messed up. I mean, you get this sheriff and this mayor who were present at the scene of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which was in 73, I want to say, and or 74, 73, I think. But and they never seem to age in 40 years because this takes place in modern times because they have smartphones and stuff. And in 73, this baby is abducted, and then she shows up in modern times, and the actress is probably no more than 23 years old. Yet if you go by the timeline, she should be about 40. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yes.
Slasher movie and not make sense, shocker.
Well, no, this is worse than most slasher films because they don't even blatantly try to hide it. It's like they messed up. They're like, uh-oh, maybe no one will notice something like that. But it's just it takes you out of the film. You're like, wait a minute. Yeah.
I did love the scene in the fairground. I thought that was
that was awesome. I mean, like I said, the first hour, when he's got them in the house and he's picking them off one by one, then he chases her into the carnival. That was just great. I was like, man, if they could just keep this momentum going, this could be a really good film.
Yeah.
But it takes that turn. Wow, what a turn.
Yes. So, well, I think we've all seen that now. So,
I haven't.
Oh, you haven't? No.
That's why I was kind of trying to be a little vague with the spoilers, but.
Okay, well, fair enough.
It really shits all over the original with that, especially with that ending.
I can't believe Nathan used a rude word.
I know.
I was very upset because that the original is my favorite movie of all time. And
Sorry.
I'm very, very upset. I heard the buzzer.
Yeah.
I'm very, very upset, especially at just how ridiculous and stupid the twist is with the heroine. I'm like, it makes zero sense, her about face.
Mind you, Nathan, be careful because we're going to be talking about Boardinghouse shortly.
Yeah, but at least Hey, you're talking about a movie that had a budget of 10,000 versus a movie that had a budget of millions. That plays a huge part.
Boardinghouse cost 10,000.
Did it?
Yes.
Where did the money go?
To special effects.
To his underwear supply.
Yes.
Right. Well, we shall be coming, not quite literally, but we'll be coming on to Boardinghouse in a little while. Joseph, what was that? You got one more, haven't you?
Yeah, I finally, after all these years, watched Alone in the Dark from 1982, the Jack Shoulder film. And I quite liked it. I was a little disappointed in some of it tries to be kind of cutesy comical in a couple places, and I thought it felt kind of out of place with how kind of wacky the characters act, amidst all this kind of nightmarish stuff going on. But, I felt all the kind of slasher, home invasion stuff was really well done. And what's his name? Dwight Schultz, who was the lead in the film. He was also in the A-Team. I thought he did a fairly good job as the kind of hero. And it has some good, effective kind of boo moments I liked a lot. I did guess the twist with the bleeder. I thought that was so obvious. I mean, the whole time I'm sitting there screaming the twist at the screen, and I'm like, please prove me wrong. Please prove me wrong. And they did not prove me wrong. But, yeah, it was a pretty fun film. I'm glad I finally saw it.
Excellent. Okay. Any other comments from Nathan and Erik on Alone in the Dark, or are we going to leave that for...
Yeah, well, it's been so long since I've seen it that I can't really remember much. So,
I would love to cover on the podcast at some point. I will say I love the scene where the teenage girl is on the bed getting menaced.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well,
that scene kind of bugged me a little bit because she just sits there. She doesn't try to run. She just sits there and like kind of whimpers. If it were me, I mean, any normal person, if they saw that happen, for one, he gets drug under the bed and she's just like, Rick, or whatever his name is, like kind of so nonchalant. And then when the knife starts coming through the bed, she's just like sitting there. I mean, most normal people would get up and jump and run away, but I don't know. It's still a pretty decent scene, I guess.
But again, when you're talking to slasher movies, most normal people wouldn't walk outside on a pitch black night being, is anybody out there?
I would.
Yes.
In just your pants.
Yeah, in just my underwear.
Yeah. In your thong.
Yeah, in my thong.
Leopard print.
Yes. Again, foreshadowing what is to come.
Yes, not literally though.
Well, thank you, Joseph. I'm just going to rattle through. I haven't seen much this week. As I say, it's only been a week since we recorded. But funnily enough, I watched. It's not a horror movie, but we touched on the director, one of the directors of VHS2. I watched The Raid. Yesterday, which is the kind of Indonesian sort of violent action movie, directed by Gareth Evans, is it the Welshman? So it's bizarre. I'm not quite sure what the story was, why a Welshman ended up directing a kind of violent siege movie. It wasn't. Well, yeah, it was kind of siege movie. It's also incredibly similar to Dredd. I don't know if you saw Dredd. The Judge Dredd movie.
No, but I've heard the comparisons. Yeah,
it came out before Dredd, didn't it?
I think. I haven't looked into it, but it's kind of essentially the story is there's a load of police go into a massive apartment block where there's a kind of a drug lord at the top of the building. He controls the whole building, and they have to get to him through the flats, and all the residents there are kind of like in the pay of the drug lord. So they get ambushed, and they're just like it's basically non-stop kind of, not kung fu, but martial arts and gunfire and violence and machete, people being shot, lots of limbs flying, and sort of it's really gory and violent. It's very good. It's incredibly well done. I definitely recommend it. Has any of you seen it?
Oh yeah, I loved it. I thought it was very, very entertaining. It reminded me of Ricky O in an apartment complex, or The Story of Ricky, about the guy who gets sent to prison, because it's kind of that hyper gory, just nonstop action and just kind of over the top, and it was just really well directed, and it's really breezy. It's a lot of fun. It doesn't really overstay its welcome.
No. It's kind of, I like the way you describe it as breezy. It sort of sounds like a fashion, like a picnic. Yeah.
Well, I mean, as in a quick pace.
Yes.
So yes. I mean, there's always something happening.
Have you seen Dredd?
No, I had a copy, and I was going to watch it, but I got kind of sidetracked and I never got to it. But I've heard it's really good.
It is excellent. I thought it was really, really good. It was some of the best 3D I've ever seen. The 3D was really, really good, but the story is almost identical to The Raid, but it's definitely worth seeing. Have you seen
they're making a sequel to The Raid, right?
Are they?
Yeah, it's coming out next year, I think.
Okay.
I believe. I could be wrong, but
right. Okay. Oh, interesting. And what about you guys? Have any of you, Eric, have you seen The Raid or Dread?
No, but I did go to see. I went to see Shogun Assassin, which had an introduction by pre-recorded introduction by Gareth Evans. Apparently, it was a season of films that influenced The Raid, and that was one of them. But I didn't actually get to see The Raid itself. But I am intrigued, and Dread as well. It can't be any worse than Judge Dredd, surely, with Slice.
Oh no.
Dread is fantastic. It really, really is good. I definitely recommend watching it. What about you, Nathan? Have you seen either of those?
I haven't seen any of the films that you guys are mentioning.
Okay, right. Well, that's some homework for you. My last film I watched on video on demand, and I was surprised to see it on there, and I'd never seen it before. It's a film called Primal Rage from 1988. Directed by Carla Rambaldi's son.
I believe it's on Netflix here.
It's from Erik. Have you ever seen it?
No, but
you would love it. You would love it, and you would, Nathan, as well. Have you seen it? It's the one. It's got the lead is Rob Lowe's brother, Patrick Lowe. And
I love when there's someone famous's brother or sister in the movie.
Starring Patrick Lowe.
But the story
in the Slumber Party Massacre too.
Yes. But it's basically what's quite interesting is that it's a story of it's on a campus, and it goes the last 20 minutes a pure slasher movie as well. I'll just point that out. But it's essentially there's the crack newspaper team on the campus go the editor wants to find out about the animal experiments that what's his name, Bo Svensson, who plays the professor, is undertaking. He has a monkey which is kind of created by Carlo Rambaldi, who obviously did King Kong, and he's got loads of electrodes, but he's basically got kind of like a rage virus, and he gets bitten. This reporter gets bitten by the monkey, who escapes. And he starts getting taken over by this rage virus, and he starts kind of bleeding, and his temples keep popping, like veins pop out, and he starts attacking people. So in one way, it's very similar to something like Rabid, the Cronenberg's Rabid, but also it's kind of very much kind of foreshadowing 28 Days Later, with the rage virus. But it all happens on a campus, and it's just ahead of a Halloween party. And everyone who gets bitten suddenly becomes this kind of like half living zombie, violent, kind of attacking people. And there's this three kind of real jock kind of arseholes who try and rape this woman who's got the rage virus. And she attacks them all, beats them all up, and bites them all. And they go to the Halloween party dressed in these really cool kind of skull masks and dressed as skeletons. And they're at the Halloween ball, and everyone's masked up, and the Rob Lowe and the woman who's there being chased around the campus by these kind of these three in these kind of skull masks, and it just turns into a complete slasher movie the last 20 minutes. So I definitely recommend that, and it's got loads of kind of 80s kind of bands and leotards and people doing aerobics and all that kind of stuff, which I thought Erik would really like.
I would.
So,
I got to see this. I think it's on Netflix. I'm going to watch it if it is.
I'm just looking at it on IMDb. It's written by Umberto Lenzi.
It is, yes.
So there's a stamp of approval if ever I saw one.
It is. It's really good fun. I thought it was. I hadn't seen it, and it screams. It's an Italian exploitation teen horror movie made in Florida, and with all that entails, both good and bad. So yeah, definitely worth a watch. So yes.
Oh! Is that it?
Is that
Netflix?
it?
No, it's not on Netflix.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm sure you can find.
I'm sure you can still find it.
I'm sure Baby Jesus will bestow it on you.
Yeah.
So I think we shall move on now to our top 3. Okay, well, to get started on our top 3 killers, before we do that, what we should say is we purposely decided not to go for Jason, Freddy and Michael, just because it's a bit too obvious. And we'll be talking, we talked at length about them anyway in respective shows, and I'm sure, given all the sequels, we'll be talking a lot more about them. So, Erik, do you want to go first? What's your number 3?
Okay, well, my number 3, I think I probably mentioned her before. It's the wonderful Rebecca Gayheart as the villain. Oops, spoiler alert, in Urban Legend. It's just purely not anything really to do with her method of dispatching, her victims or anything, but it's the way that she goes from, this innocent, kind of ditzy teenager to wide-eyed psychopathic killer. Like her performance in the last 10-15 minutes really reminded me of Betsy Palmer in places. So it's for that. It's for sort of this really kitschy, deliberately so, I think, over-the-top performance that she gives when it's revealed she is the killer. So that's why she is my
Betsy Palmer has the teeth and Rebecca Gayheart has the eyes.
And the hair.
And the hair.
Sides. Yeah, the hair.
I actually really like Rebecca Gayheart. I'd love to see her in more stuff, but has she kind of disappeared, or am I just not watching enough movies?
Didn't she end up killing someone in a car accident, and it kind of hurt her?
She's done movies since then.
I don't know.
Let's have a look anyway.
Yeah, I think
yes. So big hair, big eyes.
Fair enough. That's
yes.
sort of, the higher the hair, the closer to hell or heaven or
as
whatever.
We're going to learn with our upcoming presentation.
Oh,
indeed,
gosh,
we
yes.
are.
Oh gosh, yes. Has anyone else got anything to say about Rebecca Gayheart and her Looney Tunes portrayal?
I picked one of her monologues from Urban Legend in an earlier episode, which I thought was just kind of over the top, kind of fun and bad. So, yeah, she's a lot of fun. She's not a very consistent actor, I'd say, but yeah, she is a lot of fun to watch.
Oh, I like her. I like when she goes ding, 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 ding at the end. Because one of the very first DVDs I bought was Urban Legend, and when you click onto the German language track, the ding, ding, ding is translated to click, 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 which is bizarre. I mean, surely ding, ding would kind of mean the same thing in Germany, I would think. But
you would have thought so, wouldn't you?
I quite enjoyed her calling the heroine Miss Thang.
Yeah.
Luckily, for you, I brought a slideshow.
Yeah, I know. It's very convenient.
Awesome.
And all those candles and everything, yeah.
Excellent.
Where did she get the power for that, I wonder?
Very long extension
cord. The director mentions that in his commentary. Like, he seems like an awesome guy, but in the commentary for Urban Legend, I think he even brings up, where did she get power from? Like, even he realizes it's, goofy.
She brought a slideshow and she brought a generator.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
She was prepared. She was prepared.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you, Erik and Joseph. Do you want to give us your number 3?
Yeah, my number 3 is Bubba from Dark Knight of the Scarecrow. And I picked him for a couple of reasons. One, he does have that scary scarecrow mask, which is kind of with the giant holes for the eyes and the mouth. So it kind of, you can see his eyes in a lot of places. So it has that creepy look. But I also picked him because he's kind of a tragic character. I mean, he's just this mentally handicapped guy who gets, unjustly killed, and he comes back to kind of avenge his death. So he's one of the killers you actually had sympathy for, because the people who killed him were total, just sociopaths who deserve to die. So yeah, he's got that, that whole you root for him kind of card going. So that's why I picked him.
Okay. Well, that seems fair enough. I really like. I think it. I do like the juxtaposition between him as a kind of simple and sweet kind of character, and the kind of like the creepy kind of basically no dialogue killer that he becomes. And I wonder if it was him playing, because there was close-ups, wasn't there, of his eye, as you say. But I wonder if he played the killer in a lot of shots, because I was just watching the Burning. I finally got the Blu-ray through from Shout Factory, and I was watching. Is it Lou David who played Cropsey?
Yeah,
I think it was, wasn't it? And he was sort of saying that a lot of the killing scenes, including on the raft, wasn't him. So I've
heard it was Tom Savini, wasn't it?
It probably was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he admitted that. So, but I just wondered in the same way that probably I don't know how popular an actor he was back then, but he probably was a face. So they may not have been able to afford him for all those kind of scenes. Perhaps, I don't know. So,
well, I don't think he'd done much. I know he'd done what's that movie? The one with Bruce Leroy, The Last Dragon.
Okay.
He had like a bit part in that, and I think that's all he'd done. I'm not sure, but I think that's what I'd read.
Okay, right. Okay. Was there anything else to say on
He'd
that?
been in The Fury as well.
Oh, okay.
And the Muppet movie. Sorry, I'm looking on IMDb again. I'm cheating a bit, but
you are. Yes. Well, we know what you're like, Erik, when it comes to.
He was in Sisters, The Sting. He was in a lot of stuff before.
Okay.
Yeah, you always have IMDb ready, especially when it comes to the quizzes.
Oh, yes. I do not. You take that back.
Inga's claws are coming out.
Now we're going to have another quiz soon, just so we can torment Erik.
Exactly.
You see, I told you were the bullies.
Oh, Erik.
Taste your own medicine.
So, okay. Well, thank you, Joseph. Nathan, what's your number 3?
Oh, my number 3 is Frank from the Maniac remake that just came out recently. I loved the movie, and I think that the way they portrayed Frank in this film was excellent. And no offense to Joe Spinell, I mean, he's fantastic in the original Maniac, but I just love the turn they took with him in this movie. You know, they went a little deeper into Frank's, background, and I love the fact that, I don't think he really enjoys the killing. It's like he can't stop himself from doing it. And I don't know, I kind of thought that made him kind of frightening. That he just happens to see somebody and it's like, he's going to have to kill her, I love the direction they took with it. And I think Elijah Wood, who I had very big doubts about playing this role, was absolutely fantastic.
I've still not seen it. I know
neither.
Joseph had. So
I would agree with him. I think the Maniac remake is just a superb film. It's one of the best. It's probably one of the best films I've seen this year. Elijah Wood is so good in this role. Like I mentioned before, he's more where Joe Spinell is more just kind of a sleazebag. You seem to kind of like the killing. Elijah Wood's character, Frank. He's more of a kind of a schizophrenic kind of a. I guess you wouldn't call him a creep. You call him kind of pathetic because he really has no control over this, and he does a really good job. And he's more normal looking. I mean, he's kind of creepy looking, but at the same time, you could understand why someone, some beautiful girl would kind of latch onto him, whereas you couldn't really buy that with the Joe Spinell character.
I know. Well, Joe Spinell, that was always the kind of criticism, wasn't it, of him and Carolyn Monroe? You could never quite get your head around that. So
you guys should really see the Maniac remake. I mean, I loved it. I thought it was so good.
Okay, yeah, well, definitely we'll get around to it at some point, I'm sure. So, Nathan, is there anything else you want to say about your number 3 pick?
All I want to say is the part that really bugged me about the Maniac remake is when they would show him scrubbing his hands with this steel Brillo type pad, and he would scrub them till they bled. Ow.
Yeah, it's painful.
Fair enough. Okay, well, thank you for that. My number 3 is kind of like a nod of appreciation to all the silent killers. And my number 3 is a killer in The Prowler. Because I think I like The Prowler, but I think it's a bit of a flawed film. But I think the killer's get-up, the kind of soldier get-up, is really, really effective and quite scary. And I do love that whole not actually having any kind of face almost, because it's kind of just gauze, or not gauze, but material over there with the kind of the soldier's garb. And I just kind of I just really like that, and that's the silent. The silent boogeyman, which is obviously typified by Michael Myers, but I thought it was done really, really well in The Prowler. And I say The Prowler does have its problems. It's not my favourite slasher movie by a long shot, but I do appreciate it, and I think when it's good, it's very, very good, and when it's lacking, it's lacking, basically. But my number 3 is a killer from The Prowler. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I like the idea of the killer wearing this sand mask that they wear in deserts during the war when it gets all sandstormy and stuff to keep the sand out of their face. I think that's an unusual choice for a mask. I like the addition of the rose when he's going to kill someone, you can see him holding up a rose. I think that's it's got that bright red that kind of goes against that dark army green. I think that works really well there.
Cool. Any other thoughts, or should we move on to that pesky cat?
Oh, I think it's time for the pesky cat.
Pesky cat.
Yes.
Okay. Well, Erik, you come back in after this and tell us what is your big number 2.
He's a cat.
Okay, my big number 2 is Mr. Nudie from 10 to Midnight. I can't remember what the character's called, so I'm just going to call him Mr. Nudie. He's the killer who likes to go around killing people with no clothes on. Well, he's got no clothes on. The people he kills probably do. And he also uses the forbidden C word just to prove how evil he is. You know,
chicken.
That's actually
Candy?
a forbidden C word. That's actually a forbidden C word in Justin's house.
What candy?
Chicken.
Yes.
Yeah. But just I just love the idea of running around naked killing people. Not personally, I don't want to do it myself. I just think it's such an absurd idea, especially for a mainstream Charles Bronson movie. I think it's particularly silly.
Remember, Erik, what the comments we got after the last show. So be careful about what you say.
We didn't get any comments about the last show.
We did about Erik's picks about your misanthropic picks, wasn't it?
Decapitating lions and stuff.
Yes.
Only the hand drawn ones. I'm actually a pacifist when it comes to animals.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, but you don't mind running around naked killing people?
No, I'd love to do that for a living. Yeah.
Do you reckon there'd be many?
Made fun of that poor, simple-minded Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think there'd be many openings for you if you were running around naked?
I'd need a really large opening though.
Yes, yeah. You would. Yes. So.
Oh, he took you there. You there.
Dude.
I do apologise, Erik.
Yeah.
But thank you
Play
for that.
Play the cat again. I want to hear the cat.
You want to hit the cat? Okay. Well, Joseph, you come in after this one.
My number 2 is, like Justin, it's a film I think is okay, but I think it has problems. It's Cropsey from The Burning. And the reason why I picked him is because, the movie's just okay to me, but Cropsey, I think, is a really good villain. He's, dressed in all black, and he's got those shears, and he's all burnt, and he's very, very just unrelenting in his killing. I mean, it starts out with him killing that prostitute with the scissors. It's just so, kind of graphic and violent. And then, of course, you get that famous raft scene where he kills like 5 people at once. And I like Cropsey because he's kind of he's the atypical, boogeyman of the summer camp that no one really tries to speak of because he might still be out there. But I think they did a good job of making a perfect, just a typical slasher movie villain. And I love the whole final scene with the showdown between him and Todd and the Alfred in the old abandoned mine. Just you really get to see him go to work there as well. I think he's a pretty good. Excuse me, he's just a good killer in just an okay film.
Okay.
But he's not naked.
No, well his head is.
I know something interesting about Cropsey. I don't know if you've heard this, but he's a fucking Big Mac overdone.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that?
Mm-hmm.
What's this potty mouth?
That's my first bit of potty mouthness.
Okay.
It was Nathan
You're
earlier.
a fucking liar.
I have my finger on the trigger.
Bottom. Ooh, it's quite
bottom
strict
a cuss
today.
word?
Yeah, he's very strict today.
Mm-hmm.
What, I can't say bottom?
I think enough with the buzzer. That's it's getting on my fucking nerves. So, what? So Cropsey, yes. I think it's a very good choice. Very good choice. And I did notice on the interview of Lou David, he was saying that he would like to come back for a Burning 2, although he had some idea of he's saying something like some protozoa or something had fallen off Cropsey and grown into a new one, which I think was probably stretching it a bit. So I'm not quite sure.
He's on drugs, man. He's got wacky ideas, man.
Well, they must have, because they obviously didn't even think about doing a sequel, did they? Because they couldn't really have brought Cropsey back, could they? After that, after what they do to him at the end, that would be a thing. Having said that, Victor Crowley, another killer, kind of modelled on the 80s slash movies with the Hatchet movies. I couldn't really see how they could bring him back from the second one, but they obviously are. So
they bring him back with some lame throwaway line like he just can't die. Because he's already a ghost or something.
I don't think slasher sequels need to explain themselves, really, do they? I mean, Freddy is brought back to life by some dog urinating in Dream Master.
That is true. Okay, well, anything... Nathan, have you got anything to say about Cropsy?
I like the shears.
Okay, well, thank you. And Nathan, it's your turn for a little cat action.
My number 2 is Angela from the Sleepaway Camp series. I mean, I really like her.
Her?
I am referring to... Well, I mean, in the sequels, it's a her.
She has a woo-woo.
In the original... So, I mean, you know, I say I like him in part 1, and I like her in 2 and 3. I'm not even going to mention 4. As far as Angela in part 1, I think that most of the people that get killed, they kind of deserve it in the first one. So I mean, I was kind of rooting for Angela, to be honest. And as far as her in 2 and 3 goes, I just think she's really funny in those movies, so I like her.
Which would be your favourite Angela?
I don't really have a favorite Angela because I think they both did fantastic jobs playing that character in different ways. But I like the Sleepaway Camp sequels better than the first one, though. I will say that.
Okay, all right, interesting. All right. Any other thoughts on Angela in Sleepaway Camp?
She's a very
awesome.
small winkle.
Yes, and it's a film I imagine we will be getting around to fairly soon, and that's all I will say.
We must, yes.
Yes. Anything else, Nathan, on your number 2?
Long live Angela.
Okay, great. Well, okay, here's a little cat for me. Okay, well, for me, for my big number 2, it's quite tricky, really, because we're up to the 61st show, so we are at risk, obviously, of repeating ourselves quite often. But then again, we're talking.
We already have.
Have you noticed?
Yes.
But we're talking about slasher movies, which exist on repetition, and that is part of their charm. So I'm going right back to the beginning of the Hysteria Continues. I'm going back to episode 1, and the killer in Happy Birthday to Me. For the reasons behind that are twofold. One is I love the look of the killer, because you don't really see the killer. Well, you do see the killer and you don't see the killer. And if you haven't seen the film, I'm not going to spoil it too much for you. But it plays out like a giallo in some ways, that the killer's got black leather gloves, but wears white sneakers as well, which I always thought was probably not the best sort of footwear when you're killing people. I wouldn't have thought.
I would say it would be. It'd be good for running.
It's more
Maybe
practical
they were black or something, though.
But
more
it's
practical than a pair of Jimmy Choos.
That is true, but it wouldn't be very good for blood splatters or anything like that. If you're,
or camouflage, camouflage.
For camouflage. So, but also, I love the denouement of the film. Well, the end of the film with the big reveal of who the actual killer is. And I love those kind of twists, and see like a film like The Initiation, and where the killer does essentially Rebecca Gayheart, and I kind of always thought actually the Rebecca Gayheart's kind of demented kind of monologue at the end of Urban Legend was kind of half based on a similar one at the end of Happy Birthday to Me. And I just bought the off eBay actually the double bill, the double Blu-ray with this and When a Stranger Calls, which I think did someone call in about that, or
Johnny mentioned it.
Johnny, that's of course Johnny was talking about it, wasn't he? Yeah, so I picked that up off eBay for about £5 or £6, so pretty cheap. But I should have that next week so I can feed back. Yes. What?
I won't say it. I'm sorry.
What? I
was going to say it's here first, Justin. I have to send it to you.
Oh God. Oh, fuck's sake. Yeah, well, that's my pick. I don't know if any. I know you probably have talked Happy Birthday to Me into the ground several times before, but any thoughts on that?
It was our first.
Shish kebab.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I've still got my Happy Birthday to Me one sheet downstairs in Pride of Place at the bottom of the stairs since my birthday, because I was allowed to put that up there. So now it's still there, and I'm waiting till I'm told to take it down. So then I might replace it with my new Pieces poster instead, which would be even more popular, I'm sure.
Ooh,
so,
what's on the Pieces poster? Is it the?
It's the chainsaw one with the woman lying on the block with the massive chainsaw behind her. Yeah.
Very good.
Yes. It's my pension, as I keep on telling people. Okay, right. Well, that is our number 2. So we're going to get on to our big number 1s. Erik, who's your top numero uno killer?
Okay, my number 1 killer is Invisible. He's the boogeyman from Uli Lomel's 1980 video nasty. Well, he is kind of visible. You do see him. He's the embodiment of this guy who wears a woman's tights on his head. He gets kudos from me for the inventive way he kills people. You know, he uses skewers, a shish kebab, scissors, pitchforks, but he makes number 1 for me for killing the obnoxious little brother. Again, this is harking back maybe to my last week's top 3 a bit too closely, but I love the way the little brother is knocked off, because normally you don't see kids getting killed in slasher movies. Although his death scene is hilariously pathetic, because he just sticks his head through a window frame and he just gets gently tapped on the neck by the closing window, but we assume he's been killed. So yeah, the boogeyman, big thumbs up from me. He could live in my mirror any day.
Well, I kind of we'll talk about it in a little bit, but I imagine the makers of Boardinghouse watched the Boogeyman, didn't they?
Yes, there are Boogeyman
I thought Boardinghouse
elements.
was the Boogeyman.
Okay, controversial.
I haven't seen the Boogeyman.
You haven't seen the Boogeyman?
No.
Really?
I haven't seen it in a long time.
I guess that's
It's mirror-tastic.
Yes.
Is it something I should seek out then?
I think so.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, considering it's Uli Lommel, who is basically doesn't make good films anymore, then The Boogeyman is actually a really good rip-off, or kind of a mixture of kind of Carrie, Halloween, and The Exorcist, isn't it? Well, not The Exorcist, but it's got a real mixture of supernatural slasher. It was kind of the first one that did it, isn't it? I think so. It's kind of quite groundbreaking. So I definitely say it's definitely worth seeing.
Yep, definitely. I would say.
Cool. Okay. Right. Anything else you want to say on that, Erik?
No, don't think so.
No. Okay. Right. Well, Joseph, what's your number 1?
Well, I would have kicked myself if I didn't pick Billy from Black Christmas as my number 1, considering it's my favorite slasher film. I also think Billy is my favorite killer of all slasher films, because he's kind of the anti Michael Myers, whereas Michael Myers is all quiet and off in the shadows. Billy too is, pretty much in the shadows, but he's definitely not quiet. He's really, schizophrenic. He doesn't have any lame one-liners. His brain is just kind of a fried mess. He just, spouts out nonsense and gibberish. And I find that really frightening in the dark, kind of shadows of the whole sorority house. And the fact that spoiler alert, the fact that you never find out who Billy is, or you never really get to see his face or anything, I find that, infinitely more terrifying than someone ripping off a mask and explaining why they did it. Although, I do love that whole ripping off a mask and Scooby-Doo type ending. I think, never revealing who Billy is in Black Christmas is just a masterstroke of genius, and he really is a terrifying, villain. So that's my number 1.
No, very good pick.
Yes.
Very good pick. We talked about it before, haven't we? It's kind of how he was almost like one of the old school, the link between the old school killers and the kind of the new silent ones like Michael Myers, because he has quite a lot of Michael Myers' moves before him, obviously, but also has that whole kind of ranting maniac, insanity that you would have had the audiences would have expected with kind of mad killers from before. But excellent.
And he has the world's scariest eyeball.
Yes. Yeah, he does.
He is going to be on my arm soon, by the way.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think we've mentioned that, have we, on the podcast? You've got You've got a collage.
I'm working on a collage of tattoos for my right arm. I had two really old tattoos, and I was like, you know what? I've had these for almost 20 years. It's time to get them covered up with something I like. So I'm doing a whole horror movie, slasher movie, kind of sci-fi collage on my right arm.
So you having...
And Billy will be there. Billy will be there with the glass unicorn.
What about Dana Kimmel?
Well, if I can find room, maybe, but I don't know.
Crazy Fat Ethel?
No, she wouldn't fit.
On your arse, she would. No?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't have a big arse. It's not teensy, but it's just kind of normal. I don't know if she'd fit.
She'd fit in my arse.
Well, then you get it. Then you get the tattoo.
You could have Crazy Fat Ethel on one arse and Crazy Fat Ethel 2 on the other.
I only have one arse. I only have one arse. I think you're referring to cheeks. Yeah,
cheeks.
Yeah.
And then you could frighten the neighbours. That can be on your naked killing spree.
Yeah,
that would put the fear for whatever into people, wouldn't it? So
it would indeed.
It would. So, Nathan, do you have anything to say about Billy?
I forgot we were talking about Billy. I thought we were talking about Crazy Fat Ethel and Eric's arse.
He got excited for a moment there, didn't he?
Yeah.
Well, if you haven't...
No, I have nothing more to say. Billy is great.
Okay, great. Well, actually, Nathan, it's your turn anyway, so what's your number one?
I went with a very obvious choice. I went with Leatherface because he is the greatest killer in the greatest movie ever made.
Texas Chainsaw 3D.
Well, I'm not going to go with the one in Texas Chainsaw 3D. I think I'm going to go for the one in the 1974 version. I think he's a little bit more creepier. But I love the way Leatherface is introduced, like Kirk, running into the house and then just the Leatherface just appears in the doorway. I thought that was a really well done shot. And I mean, he's a very menacing screen presence. I mean, I can't imagine having somebody chasing me in the middle of the night with a chainsaw.
Yes. You're breaking up a little bit there, Nathan. It's not too bad, but just in case I think you got gist of that.
Yeah. One thing I like about Leatherface is he's, like Nathan said, he's kind of brutal and he's just a menacing screen presence. But he's kind of like he's sort of like the Bubba from Dark Knight of the Scarecrow, and he's almost, I wouldn't say sympathetic, but since he's so simple-minded, you kind of understand that he's just doing this because he doesn't really know any better. I think that's kind of unique.
I mean, I really like it. I'm not a massive fan. I think Texas Chainsaw is a great film, and I do enjoy watching it from time to time. But I think my heart belongs to Michael and Jason over Leatherface, if I'm honest.
I would agree. Yes,
but
mine's Billy over all of them.
I know. But I can see why you go for it. I mean, it's such a I just kind of trying to think back what kind of effect that would have had on audiences back in '74. Because it's been so overdone now, hasn't it? And to the point of ridiculousness with the latest film, and also a lot of the sequels aren't. I mean, I really liked Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, but I'm not that keen on any of the other sequels really. But I know you are, Nathan.
Oh yes.
And it's different, different strokes, isn't it, for everyone? But a worthy number one. Anything else you want to say about that?
I just wanted to say, as far as the sequels goes, it's interesting that Leatherface always finds these crazy families to hang out with, especially like in part 3 and then part 4.
I think they're supposed to be the same family, but they just keep having different members. Maybe he's got this extended family who show up every time one of them gets killed. They're like, well, we'll take the place.
Yeah, I think that Leatherface's parents didn't use lubricated rubbers, and that's why they have so many kids.
The continuity in those films is not very, very good, especially in Texas Chainsaw 3D. Boy.
Yeah. But there's continuity in that? I don't remember any of that.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah.
Right. Well, thank you, Nathan. As the madness of Boardinghouse approaches, my number one is a little left field, I kind of guess, but I'm going to go with Sheila Keefe in Frightmare, and Pete Walker's Frightmare, the film which is well, exactly the same time, actually, 1974 as Texas Chainsaw. And I just love that having a little old lady, a kindly little old lady with giving people lobotomies with a drill, electric drill, and carving out their brains and eating them. I just think I just love that kind of juxtaposition, really, of a lovely little old lady who's talking about squirrels being her little friends one minute, and then becoming a giggling monster the next. And I am aiming to do some Pete Walker films on the podcast at some point in the future. But that's my number one killer. It's kind of a bit out of left field, but as we're not doing Jason, Freddy, and Michael, I thought it might make an interesting choice. Mm-hmm. So, any thoughts on that?
My favorite middle-aged lady or old lady character is still Mrs. Voorhees, I have to say.
Fair enough. Yes,
but I do like Sheila Keith as well.
Sheila Keith is phenomenal in Frightmare.
She is. I mean, she's fantastic in everything she's in. She just adds that. She's just got that way of being really creepy, being really sweet, and then sort of really creeping you out the next moment, which I just think is. And apparently, she was a lovely, lovely old dear. Mm. So, but yes, that was my number one. So, if we haven't got anything else to say, then I think maybe it's time to get on to the main attraction. Nathan, shall we do it? Okay, well, here is the trailer for 1982's Boardinghouse.
On September 18th, 1972, the Hoffman House was closed due to several mysterious deaths. The house was reopened as a boarding house. And the body count continues. I wonder who will be next to check out of the boarding house. Boarding house, where the rent won't kill you, but something else will. Boarding house. In Horrorvision.
Resembling a cross between the Amityville Horror and a Playboy Playmates video, this film tells the terrifying tale of a cheesy video special effect that stalks bikini-clad women. In between scenes of them playfully splashing each other and wrestling with each other's bathing suit tops, they're murdered and or terrorized by horrific hallucinations. These hallucinations include seeing blood in the shower stalls while they're trying to lather up, having giant monsters jump out of the hall closet, and seeing their faces temporarily turn into rubber Halloween masks. I took that from the IMDb because I thought it was a rather fitting plot description for the film. I have to say I've always loved Boarding House. I think it is very, very funny. It's really out there with some of the outlandish scenes and and it's got some awesome fashion, which I'm sure at least caught Erik's attention.
Mm. Oh, yeah. Or fashions or lack of fashions.
Lack of fashions.
It's the best underpants-esque movie I've ever seen. It's just wall-to-wall underpants.
It's a crazy film, just because. I mean, it's so strangely put together. Like, I think the editing for it is very weird. I mean, you have the two rivals in the house, Victoria and Pam, and apparently they kind of have this relationship where they hate each other. And there'll be a scene where, Victoria finds out that Pam screwed her over, and she's very angry at her. And then, like, a scene later, all the girls are hanging out, and Victoria and Pam are both there, and they seem fine with each other. And then a scene after that, Victoria's still mad about something that happened earlier. I'm like, the editing is just kind of all over the place with this movie. And, you know, the acting. Oh, my God, the acting in the film. It's unbelievable.
Nathan, can I play a little clip of
yes, please.
the acting? Just this wasn't actually on the video I had, but it must be an extra scene, and it's the girls talking by the poolside.
How's the water?
Oh, it's great. Go on in.
No. I hope this sun shows out soon. I want to get a tan. It's too cold right now.
Hi, girls. Like to hear some of our new songs?
Oh, you guys just finished your new master, huh? I'm still working on demos.
Hi, Sumi.
Hi. Good morning, ladies. Hi, everybody.
Aren't you hot in those pants?
A little. I certainly don't need a tan.
Gloria, how'd your date go last night? Do politicians do more than just talk?
Stephen Mason. Mr. Personality is great. Steve Mason. My father financed a couple of his campaigns. He's good looking.
Isn't he an activist?
He's as active as I could handle.
Well, why don't you bring him around here?
I like active, sexy men.
I don't recall that scene either.
No.
It's in the extended version.
There's an extended version.
It's going to be coming out soon, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I read about that 2.5 hours of this.
Yes.
I'm excited. I also love Victoria, the character Victoria. She has a giant photograph of herself above her own bed.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I thought that was an interesting decoration choice for her. And I love the character. I think it's Gloria. The characters are so interchangeable. I think it's Gloria who is in the shower and sees blood and tries to push the shower door open with her boobies.
Yes. And then turns into a cross between a pig and Bill Clinton pulling a bloody tampon out of his mouth.
Isn't it the same thing?
Well, it's kind of like this kind of weird pig mask, isn't it? And then it's got grey hair on top. And it just kind of and then pulls out what looks like a bloody tampon out of her mouth. For no good reason.
I thought it was a rat as well. Yeah.
Oh, maybe it was. Okay.
And I don't understand what this is with all the women in the house like fawning all over Jim. I mean, I don't get it. You know, but I mean, Jim, you know, he did write and direct the film, so you know.
Well, I think that's probably the clue is in the, you know, that's probably what it is, isn't it?
And you know, Joseph brought up a really good point before. He mentioned that it's funny that Jim, when he first gets to the house, he starts picturing what it's going to be like, and he just happens to picture the exact girls that are going to be living there and what they're going to be wearing.
And in the creepiest way possible as well, isn't it? He's kind of like, oh, I wonder what it'd be like to have those lovely ladies round the pool. It's that kind of really kind of creepy sort of like.
Yeah,
you know.
It's gonna be a real bachelor's paradise.
Yeah.
So I guess he has the gift of foresight as well as telepathy.
Mm.
Boardinghouse is one of those movies I could just go on about forever, but I think I want to hear from Justin because you hadn't seen it before.
I hadn't seen it before. I was just thinking, I was just watching it, and I thought, talking about Jim, I just thought the whole idea that this bevy of beauties would put out an advert saying, I want beautiful women, 18 to 25, to come and stay in my apartment block for $100 a month, which I'm sure even back in 1982 must have been, you know, that's still a fair bit of money, I would imagine. So you've got all these kind of beautiful women turning up, and there's Jim looking like Marty Feldman in a thong, and they're all going, "Oh, isn't this marvelous?" And they're just thinking it was very bizarre. But of course, Boardinghouse is not going for believability. And yes, I hadn't seen this film before. It's something I actually bought the Paragon big box release used copy when I was in New York. probably about 12 or 13 years ago. So I've had it all that time, and I've never watched it. And so I have mixed feelings. Obviously, I think it's a soulmate with another film we've covered, which is like Doris Wishman's A Night to Dismember. It's slightly more coherent than that. And I had a good time with it. I thought it was kind of, it's not a good movie by any stretch, but I think it probably knows it's not a good movie. And from what I've seen from the director and the woman who plays Victoria, it was Kalusa, they're kind of real husband and wife characters in real life. And I think, without, I'm not going to go into any background now, but I think they were going for that effect, a kind of cult movie effect. So some of it's slightly affected, essentially. But there's enough genuine, what the fuck weirdness in there to make it entertaining. I think it kind of drags in the first half an hour, but certainly when it gets to the very end, when you find out who the killer is, which I think we'll spoil at some point, and I've got a great sound clip of that. For a little bit later, but I also loved Victoria's scream because she sounds like a chimp laughing.
I thought that as well, and it's just never ending when she starts going.
I know. I've got a little clip here of her screaming, and see if you think this sounds like a chimp laughing.
It's okay. We're here now. I think she had a bad dream.
Did she have a nightmare, Victoria?
So, this is your special place, huh?
Yeah, my mom used to bring me here often. Jim,
Uh-huh.
tell me more about your powers.
Okay. Oh, about that horrible dream you had in the den. Why don't you just move back to your room till Friday?
Oh, you mean the painters aren't done yet?
Sorry.
I love the fact that the special place that Victoria's mom used to take all the time was railway tracks.
Yeah.
So what was she trying to do? Was she trying to kill her? She was saying, "Come on, Victoria, let's go down the railway tracks and have a chat." No, you just stand there, just wait for the Intercity Express to come through. And Victoria's dream sequence where she gets pulled into the bed, and then she's running through a graveyard and being attacked by kind of dime store sort of cadavers falling out of graves, and then it's really bizarre. But then she wakes up screaming, and just to save your sanity, I only had a little bit of the screaming there, but she screams for a full minute, doesn't she? She does 3 full gasps of air and just sounds like a chimp laughing for 3 full minutes, and it's hilarious. I also love her yogurt facial as well.
That's so funny.
Her yogurt bukkake moment, where she opens the fridge and all this yogurt flies out and splatters her like some Japanese strange sex tape, and then you actually see it's like a bukkake video, and then you actually see almost someone chucking a yogurt pot at her, and then she to save face she rubs it in. So yes, I'll give people a chance, but there's plenty to say about this movie.
And Erik, I don't think you've seen it before either.
I
right?
had not seen it either, no. And Justin said a lot of what I was going to say. It gave me the exact same vibe watching this as I did with Night to Dismember. It belongs to that small elite group of films that are just completely WTF. I won't use any swear words because I've been given out to already today. It mingles in those same circles as Doris Wishman, or maybe it's probably a even more whacked out version of something like Skullduggery. So it's an acquired taste, but if you have a taste for that kind of cheapo 80s, really, really kitchen sink, everything but the kitchen, including the kitchen sink is what I'm trying to say, then there'll be something in it for you. And if you like Malcolm McDowell lookalikes in leopard skin thongs, then this is the film for you, because every 5 minutes the star of the film, who I can't remember his name, but I call him Malcolm McDowell because I think he's a dead ringer, is prancing around in his leopard skin underpants. I just love the fact that he goes to his office. I don't really understand what he does for a living, but he sits in his office on his desk, cross-legged in his underpants, making things levitate. I don't quite understand why he has to take off all his clothes, but he does. at every available opportunity. If there is, if I do have a problem with the film, it's probably that, like Justin was saying, it's a bit too long. The film like this should really be 70 minutes, I think, rather than this one's pushing 100, which I think is probably its biggest flaw. But I mean, I'd be lying if I said I didn't enjoy it. I love the scene where a girl is slicing an apple and she cuts her hand, and a guy comes up and says, "Oh, what happened?" And she says, "Oh, I cut myself with the apple. I mean, the knife." And then there's another, I don't know if anyone else noticed this other one where Jim says to the girls, "Oh, why don't we all organize a party for Saturday night?" And then somebody, it's kind of in the background, says, "Yeah, a warm house party." I think she meant a housewarming party, but she fluffed her line, but they never bothered to fix it. There's also a great scene. I thought that Justin might mention this one, but when I think it's Victoria when she's caressing the cuddly toy, and
it doesn't look like a penis.
one particular part of the cuddly toy looks very phallic. Yes. Oh, it's just so bizarre. You know when Pam gets her hand skewered on the ice pick? Is it my imagination, or did they go outside and bury the ice pick in the garden?
They did.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did they explain?
Yes.
Did they explain why, or did I miss something?
All Victoria says is, "I hate ice picks," and then she buries it.
Well, I think maybe
they
it's
were
because
trying to make her look, suspicious.
Yeah.
But instead, it was very nonsensical.
Well, she does. When she's practicing her her levitation skills, she does do the same breathing techniques as we hear at the start when the nurse hands over those papers, and she looks like she's in a hypnotic trance. And you hear this breathing. How does it go? It goes. Yeah. That's it. So, I mean, the main framework of the film has a kind of cohesive story to it, but it's just what fills in that framework is just completely bonkers. So it is probably, as Justin said, slightly more cohesive than A Night to Dismember, but only slightly. And I'm intrigued to know what Joseph thinks of the film, because if anyone's going to enjoy it more than us, it's him, because it's just absolutely wall-to-wall boobies in it. Boobies on the beach, boobies by the pool, boobies in the shower, just boobies, boobies, boobies everywhere. So Joseph was probably in his element with this. He probably would like to see this 2.5 hour cut that allegedly is in the pipeline. But no, I did enjoy it. I have to say. Yeah.
Well, Eric, I'll have to... yes, I do like wall-to-wall boobies, as much as any other hetero guy, but I didn't really find any of the women in this film very attractive. I thought they were kind of skeezy looking. And I guess that kind of fit in. What's
skeezy?
Skanky, trashy.
Yeah.
I guess it kind of fit in with the tone of this film, but no, I saw Boardinghouse for the first time. Like, God, it must have been 20 years ago, and I hated it. I mean, I literally rented it from somewhere, I don't remember where, but I ejected it, and I was like, okay, I cannot believe I wasted my money on this. But then I just started watching it for some reason over and over. Well, not over and over, but I'd watched it a couple more times, and it just gets funnier. So. It's kind of like Nail Gun Massacre. That's a movie that I watched and hated, but I grew to love it so much, and I feel the same way about Boardinghouse. I like Nail Gun Massacre a lot more, but I think Boardinghouse has a lot of great laughs, and I think a lot of those laughs, unintentionally, they hinge on the whole Jim character and how he's like you said, Eric, on Facebook, you said there's no trouser budget for this film. He's just constantly in his underwear, and it's just it's so distracting. And you said he looked like Malcolm McDowell. I always thought he looked like Anne Murray, David Bowie, and a monkey had like a menage a trois, and he was what came out.
That's not a compliment.
No. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun. It's so just bizarre, and it doesn't make much sense at all. And I think the whole story is just kind of, played and kind of dull, but the whole, bonkers, throw in this, throw in that is what makes the film so, fun to watch. Although I hesitate to call it a film considering it was shot on video, but I love, I love Jim's inner monologues and how he pictures everything's going to turn out. And of course, that's how it turns out. And he has this whole strict no pet policy. And late in the film, a girl shows up after the house has pretty much been rented to everyone, and she's like, "I need a place to stay." So she, for some reason, she's so enamored by all this that she's willing to be stuck in the storage closet, and then that's pretty much where she ends up. I guess, Jim is that, Jim and his, bevy of beauties is that appealing to her that she would, sacrifice comfort just to stay there.
And also
but no boys allowed on the first floor.
Yeah. Well, that's Jim's rule probably because, he wants to be the only one there. So it's all Jim all the time. I always bring this up to Nathan. I mean, every time we go running or we go, hang out with Greg or anytime this movie comes up, we always mention how self-indulgent this movie is. I mean, Jim is basically, he's making the two top characters, him and the Victoria. And I think, they're married in real life, so why wouldn't he? But we get a crack, we laugh at the whole bit at the very end where it's all said and done. It's like, these two characters went on to loftier heights. Jim is now a respected NASA technician, and she's hot RCA property. And if you listen to her music, I'm sure you can understand why.
33 and a third.
Yeah.
That's the name for bands.
Yeah. It's like 33 and a third of insanity. But,
one question I did want to ask, and because with the special effects budget wasn't massive, but how did he make that soap go around in the bath?
I don't want to know.
Because there's a scene in the film where Jim's in the bath and Victoria goes in to talk to him, and he's talking about levitating and sort of special powers, and then he says, "Look at this," and this block of soap kind of moves around on top of the bubbles.
My imagination, if I were to be serious for a moment, I'd say it was probably someone underneath the tub with a tube, and they had like a toothpick stuck in the soap and they were just twisting it around. But in movie land, I don't want to know how he moved that soap. I want to erase that scene from my memory. I like how she's like, you can make it move with your mind. Is she talking about the soap or is she talking about something else?
That's how he made it move.
Yeah. But
I love... Oh, go ahead, Joseph.
No, I was just going to say, Boardinghouse is a lot of fun. It's so awful. I mean, if you're looking for a movie that's, a good slasher film, this is not it. Like Nail Gun Massacre, Pieces, Night to Dismember, you will laugh if that's what you're looking for. So, thumbs up from me. Boardinghouse, thumbs up.
I was thinking about Justin playing that dialogue and like some of the dialogue in the movie. I mean, I love the scene at the end at the party when the one woman is talking to the other and she goes, "Hey, Cindy," and the girl goes, "It's Sandy," and the woman goes, "Well, your name's been Cindy ever since I came here." Like she's telling her what her name is. And the acting, I was thinking about, like, the worst actor in the movie to me is the guy that played the rapist ex-boyfriend when he comes back to see the girl, and like they go into that little little sitting area, and he goes, "Hey, what's this gun?" And
it's very
gun that's
reminds
lying
me of,
on the coffee table.
It reminded me of the guy in Terror at 10 Killer.
Josh.
Hey, Leslie.
Yeah.
It's like, "Hey, babe, you and me got some problems. We got to talk. We got to work some things out."
They went to the same acting school.
I think they did.
Which is to say nowhere.
Yeah.
And I love Jim's way of comforting her. Like later on when the gun goes off and almost kills her, Jim runs in and he goes, "What was wrong? Were you playing with the gun?" She's like an adult. I mean, he's acting like she's some little kid.
Well, there's a scene later where Victoria is screaming in the bathroom and he walks in with Deborah, and their response to comfort, or their method of comforting her is, "Have some pizza. Go on, darling, have some pizza."
One thing that I was kind of curious about is later in the film when the is it a cat or a dog? It's a cat, isn't it? That gets killed.
Pumpkin,
the cat dies, and then she runs out to the train tracks, and Jim's chasing after her. How come he was actually clothed then? Why wasn't he in his underwear? It's kind of inconsistent with his character.
His shirt was open, wasn't it? Yeah.
And they do say kind of inconsistent with Jim. He doesn't care where he's at. He should be naked or half naked all the time.
Well, do you think he wrote the line where one of them goes, "Oh, you've got a lovely body, Jim"?
I know, yeah.
Oh, I'm sure. But I have a Jim related question for you. Go ahead, Nathan. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, when she says you've got such a lovely body, isn't he going, like agreeing with her?
Yep.
Why wouldn't he? He does have a lovely body. Whoa.
What do you think about his hair?
Oh, God.
Yeah, and his earring.
Yeah, his earring. He's got that kind of like that helmet hair almost.
Yeah.
Well, it was 1982, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And he does, like, when he's wearing clothes, he wears a kind of pale blue shirt and a pink tie. He looks like something from Miami Vice.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and that one scene where he's wearing a cowboy hat.
Oh, nasty.
Yeah, I don't understand these women wanting to stay there if it were someone like Tom Selleck or something in the 80s, but why are they so attracted to Jim? And
I think I figured it out. I think I know why. If you remember the scene on the beach, Jim takes one of the girls out on the beach and hypnotizes her to have sex with him. And if you remember, the black gloved hand takes a rock and bashes the back of Jim's head, and the girl sits up and goes, "What the hell did you do that for?"
I have a Jim-related question for you three.
Yes.
Okay.
And I guess it would be suiting considering you were the opposite of me, but would you? For any amount of money.
No.
Ew.
But he's so attractive and people
How much
love
money?
him. $1 million.
Okay, maybe then.
Yeah, for
I need the money.
No, Eric and I were talking. Eric seems to think this movie would be a lot better if it were called Boarding Hoskins, and Bob Hoskins was the Jim character.
Yeah, it would.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, I'd watch 2.5 hours of it then.
He'd be like, yeah, I can just imagine all those hot numbers by the pool.
Uncanny. Wow, what an impression.
What was the deal with the...
I can't remember what Bob Hoskins sounded like. I haven't seen Roger Rabbit in, like, years.
The gardener. They had the kind of bizarre sort of...
That was Jim. That's the same actor.
Same actor, yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realise.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, well,
he's multi-talented. He could play several different roles.
Did anyone think that it was kind of odd that Jim, with all these bevy of beauties around the swimming pool, decides in the middle of a sunny afternoon to go up to bed and watch television? And he finds one of the girls hiding under his duvet, so he shags her instead.
Well, Dallas was on. He's trying to find out who shot JR.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
And even more bizarre, her kind of seduction technique was to stand up inside the duvet cover while his back was turned. Like the bit in Hell Night where he comes up under the carpet and then goes back down, and then so he doesn't see it at all. So she's trying to seduce him, but she decides she's going to try and scare him first.
Yeah.
And then he says, "What about my movie?" Doesn't he? He's more interested in his movie than her, which is probably fair enough.
Yeah.
Did you think that
at least Jim is particular about his movies? I guess he likes horror films like us. So maybe he has to set a time and place for his women, just like he has to set a time and place for his movies.
Well, absolutely. And also, of course, Boardinghouse is probably the first and only slasher movie to feature a pie fight.
Yeah.
Oh, yes,
it's like Three Stooges territory.
Yeah.
I kept expecting Moe to come out and say, "Why you?"
I've got a little clip of the... Are we going to spoil the end? Because there is...
Yes.
Surprisingly.
Yes.
Shall I
spoil it?
Play. This is a clip of the ending. Nathan, do you want to say who the killer is?
The killer is Debbie, the British woman who lives at the house.
No.
And here's a little bit of her freak out at the end.
Remember how I took care of her? Why did you have to get angry with me and hit me? Now I shall have your heart forever. You see, Daddy, I have the power.
There's an E-Man there.
See, Daddy.
Wow.
Well,
And to do
like
the
how they're having
classic saying where her hair gets huge.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It does get very big.
Yeah.
I like how they're having this
Daddy.
this battle of the minds of telepathy, and he's like, he's got that snarled look on his face, and she's like breathing, and it's just so outlandish.
Yeah.
It does bring in a darker element to the film, though, insinuating that Deborah had an incestuous relationship with her father.
Yeah.
It's kind of serious, considering
maybe that's why she's attracted to Jim. Because she has daddy issues, and she was, touched in the wrong places.
Yes.
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah,
But it's
so
kind of...
stage over that.
It is
Well,
a
why
very
else would you be
bizarre...
attracted to Jim if you didn't have some kind of mental problem?
Yeah, true.
Oh, Joseph.
Did you guys, since you just watched this recently, did you guess who the killer was before it got to the ending?
No, but I think it's pretty... The only reason...
I was just trying to think... I just kept saying, like, what's going on now? Who's that? Who's she?
Yeah. The only reason
I think it's true.
Yeah, the only reason I thought
it
it
was
might have been
obvious from the
her...
get-go, because when she shows up, I mean, she keeps having these weird facial expressions, and she keeps going... So why wouldn't she be the killer?
And then, like, there's a scene where the gardener approaches her with a chainsaw, and she stands up and stares him out of it, basically using her telepathic skills to make him go away or something.
Yeah. And doesn't she do lots of gardening as well? And one
Yes,
says,
she does.
why are you gardening?
Well, she's going to kill people, but she wants the place to look nice.
Exactly, yes.
She also tries to drown one of the girls for splashing her, and then gets her top ripped off in return.
And that never happened to Jason or Michael.
No.
So far. Maybe they could do that in the next Texas Chainsaw movie, though, couldn't they?
They need to make a Boardinghouse 3D.
Oh, my God, could you imagine?
All those boobs in 3D.
Yeah.
Did you like
electrocution? The scene where the guy gets electrocuted.
Oh, well, they shine.
They just shine a flashlight in his mouth.
Yeah, to make it look like it's yeah.
Did anyone notice the scene where 33 1/3 turn up for the party and somebody arrives in a car and they forgot to put the handbrake on and the car slips sort of 3/4 of the way back down the drive?
Yeah, it comes out of gear and it's like,
It's all these like little things like where a normal film would say, okay, we'll redo that, but this one just says, okay, carry on.
Well, I think when we get to behind the scenes, which I expect we will fairly shortly, we may shine a bit of a light on
in our mouths,
in our mouths,
a flashlight.
Yes. Was there anything else you wanted to say, Nathan, about Boardinghouse before we get onto a bit of background?
Before we get to background, I just wanted to say, because I have it on the background here, I love the detective with the afro, his facial expressions.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Some of the best facial expressions.
Yeah. Does he have a funny eye in real life, do you think? Or because at the end of the film he's forced to shoot himself. He has one of his eyes goes very funny, and I'm just wondering, did I miss that earlier in the film, or does he look like that normally?
Who knows?
I don't know.
Who knows?
One thing I wonder, I don't know if it was Justin or Erik who said it. They wondered what Jim did for a living, and I'm kind of curious about that too, because he sits in his office, doing telepathy tricks. How does he afford that big house on the beach? I mean, it's a pretty big house. I mean, is his job basically just to sit in? Does he get paid to sit naked? I mean, I'd kind of like to look into that.
Yeah,
for a job.
If I get a big house like that,
I'm good at sitting around in my pants. So, if there's any job opportunities in that area,
hire me.
Yes.
I can do the breathing thing too. It's all the Lamaze, yoga classes I've been taking.
I've been taking Lamal classes.
Lamal classes.
The Lamal wig.
Yeah.
You have the wig.
I do.
What, touching yourself, singing Too Shy.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I do. I'm not even going to argue. I do.
No, I can imagine.
Yes.
So
Erik is not too shy.
Not too shy. No. Nathan, is there anything else we want to say about? We can say a little bit more after we've done background if anything comes to mind, because the film itself is such a kind of clusterfuck, isn't it, of weirdness.
That's a good term, though. I've never heard that one before.
Yeah, clusterfuck.
Have you not heard of clusterfuck before?
No.
Okay.
That's because I don't have a potty mouth, so a lot of these terms are alien to me.
Have you heard of that term, Jason? Joseph?
Yes. I've actually used it in a sentence.
And I have too.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, poor little sheltered Erik.
Yeah. Well, yeah, when, we don't hear these things in the church I go to every day, so.
Is it the Church of Soapy Steve?
Yeah. And also,
Steve, remember him, yeah.
And also, you said, Erik, you love those kind of Exorcist rip-offs where they'll have potty mouths.
I do.
So I don't believe a word of it.
Yeah.
Well, then how come you don't like Rob Zombie movies?
Yeah, that's the strange thing. I don't know.
That is a strange thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
But
I think there's a difference between being possessed and having a potty mouth and just having a potty mouth just for the sake of it. Yeah.
It gives you an excuse, doesn't it? Yes.
Yeah.
See, I stood up for Erik. I'm not a bully.
You're not a bully. Justin still is, though.
You're the bully. Anyway, we've enough of that.
No, you are.
No, you are.
No, you are. But what am I? Whatever you say.
Passive aggressive.
Yeah,
I was posting images of goths on Facebook and taunting me. It's a hate crime, Erik.
That was Patrick from Scream Queens.
Yeah, but you've done it before.
Yeah, well.
Yeah,
Erik is a passive aggressive bully.
He is. Sitting there flexing in his pants.
Yep.
So, let's move on to some background. Nathan, what have you got for us?
I've got my winkle out and I'm waving it at you.
I can't see it.
Yeah, I know. But
That's passive aggressive. That's passive aggressive.
Right. Oh, what was that?
Yeah.
Was that your...
That was Jim.
That was Jim. Okay.
He's in the house.
He just made Eric's pants fly off.
See, Justin, you and I would be, right up Jim's alley because we got a lot of pussy in our house.
That is true, yes. Mind you, Nathan, have you got any cats? No,
he does, he has stripes.
Straps.
I have two cats.
Yes. And how's Axel getting on with the cats?
They don't really like him. He likes them, but they don't like him.
Okay, well, they might come round. So, we've got a phantom pisser at the moment in the house. There's one of the cats is pissing on our shoes. I'm not entirely sure which one it is. So it's like a whodunit. But we think we know. We've narrowed it down to, well, it could be one of four. But Argento's got a cone on his head at the moment because he got an eye injury, which is healing nicely. But I don't think he's very happy. He's been kept indoors. Captain Mannering's got cat chin acne. And
cats get acne?
They do on their chins. But the trouble is, we're trying to pin him down to put some Hibby scrub on it to treat it. But we did that today, and it ended up in lacerations and stuff. So that's not good. The other two could be secret pissers, but we're not sure. So
see, I feel bad for Justin. He's getting his shoes tinkled all over. The cats here, we have puppy pads, so the dogs can go on the pads, and the cats, if they somehow can't get to their litter, they can go on the pads. And I don't know if it's the dogs or the cats, but they'll go right beside the pad on the hardwood floor. I think they do it just to annoy me because I have to clean it up.
It's it's kind of a bladdery version of eyeball.
It is. Yeah. It is. Well, I'll tell you how it plays out, but hopefully.
Yeah. Are you having to go shoeless, Justin?
Well, no. I just put them through the washing machine. They've been drying in the sun, but hopefully tomorrow I'll go back to the vets because we went to the vets the other day, and she tried to charge me £450,000 at the vets because she put in too many noughts into the machine. But it's not far off.
That's loose change to you. You published author you.
Isn't that only like $400 in American or whatever?
Ooh. Well, I don't
know. I mean, I seriously don't know. I don't know anything about pounds and francs and sixpence or whatever you call it, or quid.
Well, I
have no knowledge of the conversion rate. So.
Well, I'll tell you what. I got my latest statement for my book through, and now I am £3.11 away from paying off my advance. So,
wow.
Yeah, I know.
It's funny it's kind of funny that you mentioned. I mean, it's funny that your book is so popular, and yet you're just basically kind of getting back to even now.
Yeah, but then
I wouldn't call it funny. I mean, it's I wouldn't call it funny, but it's just kind of. Yeah.
No, I know, but I'm not bitter. It was publishing; it was the main thing. It's just it is bizarre. But I might make £5 or £10 off it in the end. So we'll see. So,
but you changed a lot of people's lives, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, I touched a lot of people, which is good. So,
background, finally.
Background, yes. Who wants to go first? Nathan, is your pick.
I will go
what
first.
Have you got for us?
Well, like I said, the budget was approximately $10,000. Movie was shot in about 2.5 weeks. HorrorVision was basically a throwback to the gimmicks that William Castle would use in the past. Boardinghouse played at theaters. Surprised. Let's see, what else do I have here? There was talk about making a Boardinghouse part 2, which would be awesome if they did.
Is that still being bandied about, or is that was that back in the day when it hit number 1?
They said it on the Code Red DVD.
Right.
They also said on there that the film once played on the AMC channel, which, over here in the States, the AMC channel is American Movie Classics. So how do you like that?
Well, that is bizarre, isn't it?
Yes.
Don't AMC do Walking Dead as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they did. They do.
Okay.
And Breaking Bad.
They also played House of Death.
Wow.
No, that was A&E.
No, the AMC did too.
They did?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
But A&E was the one that played it like all the time.
Yeah.
But that's the background that I have.
Okay, right.
I have a little bit here.
Okay.
Well, Boardinghouse was also known as Housegeist and Bad Force. And let's see, the idea for the project was developed by Elliot Van Kobe. I want to say the GH is silent. It was a result of an article he read in American Cinematographer. The article mentioned that George Lucas was experimenting with producing films shot originally on video. Van Kobe approached Wintergate with the idea of producing a low-budget horror film on video, reserving the major portion of the budget for the expense of making the transfer to film. Wintergate, who plays Jim, that is Jim, he funded the project and wrote the script. And as an assistant casting director in Hollywood, Van Kobe had extensive experience with video equipment. It was he who chose the camera and under an alternate name of Obi Ray, shot most of the admittedly cheesy special effects sequences. Boardinghouse is notable for being the first horror film to be shot on video. And, of course, the film uses that movie gimmick titled Horror Vision where, a warning would pop up on screen. Of course, you kind of know that from there. And despite being shot on video, the movie was transferred to film and given a limited release theatrically, like Nathan said, by Coast Films in 1983. And then it was later released on VHS by Paragon. And that's all I have on it.
Okay, thank you, Joseph. What about you, Eric? Have you got anything?
Okay, well, I only have two small bits. John and Kalasu Wintergate are now internationally known as Lightstorm, and I think they're kind of a multimedia enterprise. It says here on their website, and I'm quoting this verbatim, they have devoted their entire lives to singing and bringing joy to people all over the world. By the constant practice of controlling and silencing the mind, they have connected with the ultimate truth of many aspects of this creation. So they're a bit new worldy, new agey, I think, and that's even back when they were making Boardinghouse, they had an interest.
I can definitely see that.
Yeah,
I can definitely,
yes. Yeah. The only other, one other thing. You were saying it was released theatrically. I read somewhere, but I can't recall where, that the theatrical version was slightly shorter. They got rid of the pie fight sequence, apparently. Yeah, and as we were saying earlier in the podcast, there is a 2.5-hour cut of the film apparently coming to DVD. It's on the Wikipedia page, but it was supposed to be out in May, so I haven't heard anything, of it appearing. Lindsay Freeman, she plays Debbie, and she's credited in the film. Well, the actress is credited as Alexandra Day. She posed nude for the January 1976 issue of the U.S. edition of Penthouse magazine. And her photos caused quite a stir at the time because she looked quite young. So, Joseph, you like young girls, so maybe you can dig out.
No, I do not.
January.
I do not like
I was only joking. Oh my God, I'm going to get you into trouble.
That's Greg. Greg is the pedophile of our group.
You can't say things like that.
Yes, I can. Greg is a pedophile.
Okay.
Well, he's not really a pedophile, but he tends to. He's like almost 40, and he tends to like 21-year-old girls. So,
well,
which is legal, but still young.
All straight men are like that, though.
Not me. I like the older women.
Oh, what, like Susie?
The aged fine wine.
Well, like Susie.
I'm watching the film is on in the background here, and it's I forgot to mention I love the bitch fight at the poolside. I'm going to shove your fucking teeth down your throat or something. I don't even know what the fight is about. It's some woman is looking at some guy's boyfriend or some girl's boyfriend, is it? Or
it was
you know the
like
scene
that,
I mean?
it?
It's Pam is shouting at somebody. It's great. It's pure dynasty. But as far as background information, that's all I have, I'm afraid.
Okay, well, thank you. Well, you're funny. You're sort of saying Susie's like fine wine, Joseph, and Toya's more champagne.
Oh, you shut your bitchy mouth.
Toya's more like a Pabst Blue Ribbon type
What's
of
that?
person. It's like a really nasty beer.
Oh, Joseph, how could
you?
you?
Horrible to me. And there I was, when you rang earlier on Skype, I sang a little bit of Mirage by Susie and the Banshees for you.
I know,
Thanks,
Erik.
I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, Toya's like a fine Chardonnay.
Toya's like a Coke Zero with Captain Morgan's rum.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Delicious.
She's like chocolate milk.
She is. She's like Mars Bar milkshake.
Good going in, bad coming out.
Okay, well, let's move on. Did you know that John Wintergate and Calusa had another slasher movie connection?
Really?
No.
They were both in Terror on Tour.
Really?
Yes. Huh? Well, according to IMDb, they played Mod Girl and Mod Boy in Terror on Tour from 1980. So, I mean, I'm not sure what that's, what that...
So I'm trying not to remember Terror on Tour. So that's probably why
Is Terror on Tour better or worse than Boardinghouse?
Well, better made. I wouldn't say as entertaining.
No. It's boring, is it, or something?
Yeah. Now, a couple of other bits I've got is that the boyfriend, the rapist boyfriend, Richard, was played by Brian Brundlin, who was a stunt double on the Amityville Horror. So it's all the higher echelons of people. The old guy who Joel Reardon, who died. The film's actually dedicated to him. Do you know the old guy, the one who's playing golf and he falls over?
Yeah, hilariously falls over. Yeah,
and he always seems to be drunk, probably because he was drunk. I don't know, but he died the same year. You'd have to be in this film. Yes. The only other thing I've got that hasn't already been covered is this is what it says, and I read somewhere that it was the people who made it had previously done porn, but I haven't seen that anywhere else. So someone said it was similar in that way to The Prey, but I don't think that is necessarily true.
I can almost see that though.
Well, it does. It plays out a bit like a porno, doesn't it? There's a great comment on IMDb, and someone's put "shot on video poltergeist slasher made by New Agers. How can you pass on that?" Which I think is probably fair to say is true. Now, just to give some idea of what they were actually going for in the book Nightmare USA by Stephen Thrower, there's a brief little interview, or not an interview, but like a little block of text from John Wintergate. And star Calusa from the film, and he wrote to him after seeing he reviewed it, and he says, let's just see what it was. He says, "We meant it to be sort of cult orientated, far out and over the top, tongue in cheek, outrageous, and insane comic spoof of the horror film genre." So a lot of what they did was, it's definitely they were doing it on purpose, and. Apparently, it says at the bottom, it was released alongside Jaws 2. But I thought Jaws 2 came out in 1978. But
it did. So I saw that interview as well, and I was wondering if maybe they meant Jaws 3, which would have been out in 83.
That's probably, I would imagine, that's probably what he meant, isn't it?
That would have to be it, yeah.
That would be a great double bill, because I love Jaws 3.
I do too. I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he also says about the acting, he says, "We asked a few of our fellow acting friends to work with us to make it all happen, and it was quite a challenge to have some of them come off the way they did, but we all had fun working on the project." And said, "We did use a few ad-libs that happened throughout the filming when they were really strange or came off even naive or stupid feeling." And he says the metaphysical aspect in the film was meant to give it a deeper scope somehow, and also make it more emotionally intricate as well as a bit more crazy. So it's kind of, it all works together. I think it kind of had to come up with a completely incohesive whole, but it's still a very entertaining movie. And it's the kind of film that would be really good, I imagine, to see with a big group of people in a cinema. Because apparently, I did read somewhere that they said that they saw it and a very drunken showing one night in a group with a lot of genre fans, and that apparently it was a real hoot. So I imagine it would be. But I must admit, I don't believe I could sit through a 2.5 hour version of this. That's all.
It would take multiple sittings, I think. Maybe watch an hour at a time, or
yeah.
I mean,
it'd be quite.
You can do it.
Yeah, well, that clip I played earlier of the girls talking around the pool. It wasn't in the version I saw, the Paragon tape. Was that in the version you've seen, Nathan and Joseph? It wasn't.
No,
it wasn't. So that must be extra. Because if it's just lots of inane dialogue, then it might be quite funny. If that's all the extra stuff is. Because I imagine they wouldn't have cut out any of the gore or anything like that, would they? Because they would just put it all in. So, okay. Well, Nathan, do you have anything else to say about Boardinghouse before we move on to some feedback?
First of all, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I was breaking up some. I just wanted to say that I think it's hilarious how random girls just show up throughout the film.
Yes.
Yes, that was very, very succinct closing statement there. And that's okay. Has anyone else got anything to say, or should we move on to some feedback? All I would like to say, it was a very Nathan-esque pick.
It was pure Nathan. And we've watched.
It was definitely Nathan.
Nathan did mention the fact that they're stalked by a dodgy video effect, which appears sort of not that often in the film, but the entity is sort of displayed as a kind of a video-generated blob on screen.
Yeah, I found
it's
that
like
quite
a Commodore 64 effect or something.
Yeah.
I found that quite creepy the first time I saw it.
A Wang computer or whatever.
You thought what, Justin? Sorry?
I found it a little bit creepy the first time I saw it.
Did you?
I don't know why, because then every other time it doesn't look creepy. Just that blob.
Maybe you were sober.
So maybe I was sober. Yeah, it didn't last long.
Yeah, we're most people say maybe you were drunk. For Justin's, maybe you were sober.
Justin, can I ask, on the print you watched, could you read the text scroll to start? Because I couldn't read it in mine. It was all blurred.
Yes, I could. But the tape I've got is from 1986, and the first 5 minutes, the sound quality was really low. I really had to turn up. Sometimes you get with VHS, when you get it starts playing really quietly, and you just really crank up the volume just to hear it, and you know that any moment it's suddenly going to switch back to loud, which it did, of course. And did anyone else like the kind of the computer typing effect that went on for 5 minutes?
I know, and the
kind of reminds me of Shadows Run Black. They did the same thing, although I think theirs was like a lot worse.
So, do we have anything else left to say, or shall we move on to some feedback?
The body of Debbie was missing Deborah, was missing at the end of the film, so there still is room for Boardinghouse 2 if anyone wants to make it, and I think that person should be Nathan.
Well, I was just going to say, the hysteria continues, where watching movies won't kill you, but Nathan's picks will.
Oh, that's mean. Now you're bullying Nathan.
Yeah.
Oh, you're all still alive.
Yeah. And also, let's not forget, John and Calusa could be listening to the show, because obviously it looks like they would have checked out, and apparently they're going to be on a new commentary on on whatever the 30th anniversary edition, whatever's coming out. So they'll hear everything you said about them, Joseph.
Yeah, Joseph.
So you might suddenly find yourself levitating or bleeding from your orifices.
I hope I do.
Yeah,
I think it'd be fun.
Running into the sea and collapsing.
Yes.
I don't live near an ocean. I live near a river, but.
Well, maybe run into one of your dog pads and fall face down.
Yeah. Ooh. Well, that'd be fine because they don't use the dog pads; they use the floor.
Okay, right. Well, without further ado, then, thank you, Nathan, for the clusterfuck that was Boardinghouse. If you'd like to write into the show and let us know what you thought of it, then please do, because we'd love to hear from you. We've got a little bit of feedback coming up, but if you'd like to contact the show, this is how you can.
Be sure to search for and like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at THC_podcast. Our voicemail is 858-233-9281. And you can email us directly at the.hysteria.continues@gmail.com.
Okay. We have a voicemail. Shall I play that first?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a voicemail.
Hey, gentlemen. This is Brett. I'm sorry I haven't called you in a while, but I've been very busy. And I just wanted to say how much I enjoyed the Predator show, and I think that this counts as a slasher. And I started to think of other movies that could count as a slasher, and I found another Arnold one, Terminator 1. Definitely not Terminator 2. That one's a little bit more friendly. But Terminator 1, you know, what's the whole plot? Just a girl and a guy running from an unstoppable killing machine, you know. It's basically a horror movie. It just happens to have that element of sci-fi with the robots and the future. But when I first saw this kid, I didn't think it was sci-fi or action. I thought it was a horror movie. I thought it was really scary, especially the ending with the fucking exoskeleton thing. So that might be a good one to do. Another Arnie. All right, you guys keep doing good work, and I will call back another time. Bye-bye.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Brett. I think we'd probably agree that Terminator could be termed a slash movie, wouldn't we?
Yes.
In a manner of speaking. Yeah.
Yes.
And Alien. I'm still trying to shoehorn Alien into the.
I'd say Alien. Definitely, Alien is very slasher-esque.
And Dirty Dancing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we said about putting Baby on a machete, didn't we?
You did. I didn't.
Mm-hmm. So, well, thank you, Brett. Short and sweet. So, thank you very much. Joseph, you got another bit of feedback, haven't you?
Yeah, this is from, God, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Maya Drakenstein. I guess that's her name, or his name. I don't know. Maya, I don't know. Anyway, he or she says, I'd say it's a she. Hi, guys. I'm a huge fan of the show. I was watching The House on Sorority Row and Pieces yesterday, and it struck me, both movies have a scene where a waterbed is brutally slashed and killed in quotation marks. First, from House on Sorority Row, when Vicky is in bed with her lover. It's just a really short clip in this video, but you see Mrs. Slater's cane slashing up the waterbed, and then she posted some links to YouTube, and then they say, from Pieces, where the woman is being stabbed to death on the waterbed. And then another YouTube clip. And then a friend of mine reminded me of the waterbed scene from A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master. I can't think of any other waterbed massacres right now, but there has to be more of them from the 80s. Waterbeds are crap and deserve to be slashed to pieces. I just assume you guys already have a list of top 3 waterbed massacres from the 80s, and if you don't, please make one. I think that's all I can think of. But anyway, they say, thank you for hours of fun, education, and utter geekorama. That's from Maya Drakenstein, or I'll just call him Dracula.
Well, we always insult our listeners by accident, don't we? Usually by
I love you, Maya, even though I don't know who you are.
Well, no, thank you, Maya. That was, yes, we'll try and think. I can't think of any other waterbeds.
Well, there's a whole smoking pot on a waterbed, but I don't think that really
That's in
counts.
Pieces, though, isn't it?
Yeah, that's in Pieces as well.
I don't think the waterbed gets killed or anything.
No. Not at that moment, anyway. But
and fucking on a waterbed.
Do we have anything else?
Well, I just have one thing here from our Facebook page. Okay. You reminded me there when you mentioned House and Sorority Row. It's from Mike McCready. And he said, just started listening to your podcasts. Excellent work, guys. Just want to let you know that Mark Rosman, the writer-director of House and Sorority Row, was my professor in film school. He's a great guy, and he really knew his stuff. So that's short but sweet, but thank you for that, Mike. Yeah.
Yeah, I interviewed Mark a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
He's a good guy.
Did
House
we
and
read that
Sorority Row
out
all those
last
years
one?
ago.
Yeah. I thought we'd read that one out.
Oh, have we?
I think so.
Oh.
But it doesn't matter. It was short and sweet.
Okay.
Anyway.
61 episodes. It kind of
exactly. We were talking about repetition, weren't we?
He did send that mail to us on the 1st of May, so we probably have read it. So sorry, Mike. Well, I'm going to apologise to him. Sorry, everyone, for reading out the same thing twice.
Yes. But no, I mean, that is fine, Erik. We sort of, old age creeps up on us all.
That certainly does on you.
That's already crept up and gone past. So, that was... have we got any other feedback? Nathan, have you got anything for us?
No.
No. Okay, right. Well...
I've got one here from Mike McCready.
Oh, have you? Okay,
yeah, just
Is he talking about Mark Rosman?
Because, Joseph mentioned House in Sorority Row, and Mike just emailed us to let us blah, 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 etc., etc.
Blah, 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 blah. Right. Well, Joseph, do you want to explain what we're going to be doing after this show?
Yeah, well, scheduling conflicts are coming right up around the corner, so...
Caused by Susie.
We won't... Yeah. Mm-hmm. This episode will be going out this Thursday earlier because Justin will be out of town and unable to release it on his end. So we're going to release it on Thursday. And then we won't be recording again until July 14th. But in the interim, I'm going to be releasing the Savage Water commentary we did for Savage Water, the Vinegar Syndrome DVD that got released and then recalled. So if you haven't heard it, now will be your chance to hear it.
Okay, no, thank you very much. And because we won't be announcing what we'll be covering the next time, then I think I am going to plump. And I was pondering. Should I do a proto slasher? Should I do an Australian slasher? But one that we've probably been requested more than any other is Sleepaway Camp. So I think it's time we covered Sleepaway Camp on the show for our July the 14th show. So that's coming up next time. So look forward to seeing you and hearing back from you soon. And what are we going to be playing out with, Nathan? Or Joseph?
Oh, this is the one I record. It's just the incidental music over the credits. The very electronic score.
Right. Yeah, which when I was watching it for the first time, any Depeche Mode fans among us, apart from me?
Oh, yes. Love Depeche Mode.
Yeah, they have a song called Here Is the House on the Black Celebration album, and I for the opening music anyway, it reminded me of this.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Well, let's play out with that. Sounds like we've lost somebody.
Someone.
Yes. Just lost somebody.
Nathan.
Okay.
Nathan.
But I'm sure Nathan will say goodbye. We'll say goodbye now, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Creaking door again. Somebody on here lives in a haunted house. And again, that creaking door sound. Who's there? Hello?
See, Daddy.
Yeah.
Hello.
I'm glad that you're back because somebody has a creaking door in their house and I was quite frightened.
That was me.
Oh, okay. I was scared. I thought it was a haunted podcast.
Erik, you need to lube it up.
Boardinghouse. I need to lube it up.
Yeah, you need to lube it up.
Yeah.
Oh, Erik.
Oh, that sounds like an end of the podcast thing.